Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. We have a double monthly report to run through. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members. Thank you all so much for the support. Also, if you would like to convert your phone or tablet into your ship's dashboard, be sure to check out GAMEGLASS. It is a free-to-use app, but if you would like access to many more shards, or even to build your own, I can get you 10% off a monthly or annual pass, or 15% off a lifetime pass. Just follow the link below to learn more, and any purchase made using my links does directly support my channel with a direct kickback, which is very much appreciated, and a big thank you to all of you who have done so already. So today I will be running through both the November and December monthly reports, which dropped a couple of weeks back. I'm only just getting around to covering them, but this is all of the work that went on in the last 2 months of the year. Now, the January monthly report should be coming out next week, I would think, which I will also cover that one. This is going to be a big one, so do settle in, get yourself a drink or some snacks, and let's get to it. Firstly, we have the AI content team, who are developing targeted voice packs for NPCs so that conversations provide a unique narrative experience depending on the location. And they have also worked alongside the mission team to support the setup of new missions, reputation and story-based content for upcoming releases. And hopefully this year we can start to see much more life come to all locations in the verse, with NPCs behaving the way that really sells that feeling of life happening around you. Now, for the AI tech and features team, they worked on the Valakar, which is the giant sandworm, well, ranging from juvenile to giant, improving its ability to utilize submerged positions while avoiding hills. Plus, they unrotted the chase target behavior and removed the movement hearing filter concept. So are they saying here that the Valakar can no longer detect movement as a way of tracking their targets? I hope that's not the case. I do like the idea of that being a easy way to draw it out. Finally, the Valakar can now attack inanimate objects, and new placeholder behaviors were implemented and further developed. So this, I suppose, involves seeing a Valakar maybe attack a vehicle. That would be quite a moment to witness, especially if it's your vehicle and you were just making your way back to it and then a Valakar goes and eats it up. Now, I do hope as well that all of this talk of the Valakar avoiding places like hills means that it is now coming to places like Monox or Daymar, as this was their original plan, and I don't think there are any hills on Pyro 1 around the location where you fight the Valakar, so hopefully this is referring to it expanding to new locations. Now, for the creature pipeline, which, surprise surprise, is called Starpaws, had work on the AI-triggered actor state. Radial formations were ported from Squadron 42, hopefully meaning a creature type from Squadron 42 is now coming to the PU, but I don't know. Plus, the skill extender was refactored and renamed AI Motive. Plus, the team added a health lost this phase boss motive condition. Funnily enough, I was just rewatching the planned fauna matrix for all of the creatures expected to be implemented between now and 1.0. So basically when 1.0 goes live, these are all the creatures that we're supposed to be seeing. It will be great when Genesis comes along and these creatures can be all part of the world in the appropriate ecosystems and environments, and we can just stumble upon them rather than them being more like boss set pieces. Now, updates were made to the anti-personnel turrets, still haven't got these yet, with the devs fixing an issue that caused the guns to fire above the target's head. Probably why we never got to really see these in action last year. Bug fixing was also done to the navigational links and traversal behaviors, which is referring to how AI use items like elevators, trains, ladders, and so on. And finally, the AI planetary navigation improvements were made to allow easier changes to physics terrain patch resolution. And although this is only available on the Valakar right now, this will be in the 4.6 build. Not sure what it all means because I haven't seen it yet, but as I say, hopefully we're not too far out from the Apex Valakar making its way up, having its presence on other planets. Now, for the AI Game Intelligence Development Team, they worked towards the next milestone for the Mission System version 2, which was mostly developer-facing updates rather than learning how it'll be changing missions for players. For the animation team, they saw facial animation shoots for their final performance capture shoot of last year, capturing content for 2 new characters and 2 new voice packs that will populate the NPCs found in the Nyx system. They also completed animation tasks for ArcCorp's Elatiano, who we will be seeing during comm calls. I'm assuming this is going to be part of this year's narrative. The team also began to process the content from November, and they started with one of the new named characters who will be seen in an upcoming release. And gameplay-wise, it says that the animators worked toward finalizing the Spec Ops AI combat set, as well as 2 new human sets. Now, this is referring to the style and ability for how human AI can act during combat. For Spec Ops, this was originally said to be the highest skilled and organized human AI combat option, making them a very deadly opponent. And AI have become much more of a threat over the last year, although with bugs and server issues they can still be somewhat ridiculous. But it'll be very interesting to see just how capable these AI, or the Spec Ops AI especially, become, plus whatever these other AI sets are as well. Now, progress was also made on melee and mechanized enemy types. This is going to be very interesting, seeing mechanized enemy types driving around. I assume this is referring to NPCs using ground vehicles in combat, which will be a lot of fun to take on. Player swimming and navigation, new weapon animations and creature improvements for a Copian type enemy were also worked on. So swimming, finally that will be a great addition, and will get us one step closer to proper water-based content like missions and such, as it was mentioned a long while back that water gameplay was intended to come at some point, be that exploring wrecks on the surface of a planet's body of water or underwater as well. We just need boats and submersibles, which are also planned. For those who don't know, it's just probably quite a way off yet. Finally, for this team, it says development continued on the background life AI as well. Now, not entirely sure what that's referring to. All I can think is it means insect-like background life, but I'm not sure, as insects and such creatures on a micro scale were not meant to be AI driven, but more just visual effects with audio. So this could be relating to something else, unless that has changed. Now, next up, we have the character art team, who closed out the year by finalizing event rewards and promotion items while progressing with new gangs for 2026. I think we're going to see the Moraine a bit more this year. These rewards also are likely to be what we will see for this upcoming, or we've already seen them now, but for this 4.6 Alliance Aid event, and potentially more further down the line as well. The concept art team as well began exploring ideas for new armors, and they finalized handoff sheets for subflare items. Oh, I do wonder when we're going to see Starware. Now, for the core gameplay team, for the engineering mechanic, which released its first iteration in 4.5 at the end of the year, the team said they are looking forwards to improving the feature over the next few releases. So the engineering systems were a great addition for 4.5, and I was so happy that they managed to get it out. Although it is quite limited, it is by no means in its final state. We still need the reintroduction of wear and tear and so much more. But I am glad to hear that they will continue to develop throughout the next few patches. We had a little update to shields in 4.6, so I'm assuming either the interim patches or 4.7, 4.8, we will see a lot more of this stuff roll out to get engineering to its somewhat final state. Now, they also worked to get the tech preview of crafting ready. With the initial preview, it says, including the core loop of creating various items and adjusting their stats based on the material quality used. It also says that additional recent work on the feature included shop support for material quality, and the ability to sell partially filled or mixed containers, which will be a huge benefit when crafting takes 0.75 SEU of a resource, leaving 0.25 in a box. So glad that they have thought of that. Also, progress was made on the main crafting UI screen, including the Q screen, selecting the delivery destination for crafted items, refunding materials, and functionality to dismantle previously crafted items. And at this stage, the core functionality is present, and they say that the developers are preparing to review player feedback before polishing the feature ahead of its eventual release. Now, with a sentence like that, it sounds as though they are not intending to do another tech preview test and are planning on just basically polishing what they have based on our feedback and then release it in a build pretty soonish. Not to say they won't do another tech preview test, but I just get the impression they're not going to. And I really hope that that is the case, but I would not be surprised if there were more. The UI itself needed a bit more beautification, as it wasn't really looking like anything special, but the functionality was there, which is great. Now, towards the end of 2025, the core gameplay team dedicated time to addressing issues with the existing transit and freight elevator system, working to address bugs or issues that had become very problematic. But they say there is still issues that they will continue to address. Now, I do wonder where this transport refactor is, especially as they have already mentioned that the social refactor is expected to come this year, and it was said that the social refactor would release once the team had brought out the transport refactor. Hopefully we hear about that soon, and as much as elevators have become a lot better, freight elevators are still clearly a problem, and I'm glad that they are addressing this stuff and making it work better. Now, for the mission system, not version 2 I don't think, potentially just the current version that we have, but I could be wrong as it doesn't specify. It says designers now have the ability to specify conditional mission completions. For example, in 4.6, missions can be completed by fulfilling one objective or an alternative objective. And the team also investigated some of the root issues behind drop-off lockers that caused courier missions to be disabled. Now, we know courier missions are, I think, coming with the mission pack number 2, which is a 4.7 feature for the end of March. So hopefully by then they'll have that fixed. But we can see in these Alliance Aid event missions that you can either hand in one or something else rather than both, which is nice to have that option. Now, the team also provided support for the various new missions and content deliverables, like improvements to the progress tracker for events, and work continued on the inventory rework with internal reviews and bug hunting sessions. Very much hope that we see the new inventory, both front-end UI and back-end systems, come along sooner this year rather than later, as it is very much needed. And then finally, for the core gameplay team, the early steps for onboard capital ship refueling was established, leading to task breakdown and scheduling. And this is referring to the ability for smaller ships like fighters or any small ship that can land on board of an Idris, for example. They can use their vehicle manager app in their MobiGlass to refuel, rearm, or repair before heading back out, using onboard resources from the cargo bay. Now, this will be a great addition, but personally, I really look forward to the physical versions of these. So being able to pick up a refueling hose in the hangar, attach it to the ship while it's landed, physically repair it, and then send it on its way again. Or repair by hand. That would be much cooler. Now, next up, we have the economy team, who say using community feedback overhauled Wicklow's rewards, with most recipes now requiring fewer of each ingredient, with some items redistributed into the loot pool, and the Idris and Wolf now added as rewards. Happy to hear that these items can be in the loot pool, because although I don't really take part in Wicklow's stuff, I know finding this stuff or looting it will get me a pretty penny when we sell it at the Idris trade meets. The commodity price boost generated a wide range of feedback, they say, with the strongest responses tied to the increased profitability of previously undervalued free trade resources. And these insights, they say, are already being factored into future balancing adjustments. Now, this is referring to when they increase the payout or the value of certain commodities just temporarily to kind of create a bit of an interesting gameplay scenario. They have also added new possible vehicle drops to contested zones, and the economy team also spent time on Nyx's social stations that will populate the system with safe trading zones and economic incentives. And these are also a 4.7 feature, populating the system with space stations that will act as QT points, allowing players to travel around the verse or around the Nyx system more freely, going to the different belts and so forth, which is going to be great. Finally, the economy devs are looking into vehicle ballistic weapons to give them proper caliber designations and operational costs associated with the size and type. Now, this I am very happy to read, especially with Maelstrom eventually coming along, their physical damage system. Having ballistic weapons with actual calibers that will determine the physical values of each will be great. So some better at penetrating than others. Maybe we could get some armor piercing or better penetration calibers and so on and so forth. Now, briefly, for the mission design team, it says they worked on quality of life fixes for 4.5 and bringing back the derelict space station missions in Stanton, which I'm not sure what that's referring to. Are these the Kovalex missions? If anyone can remember what these derelict station missions are, do let me know in the comments. They also continued on content planned for 2026, did the mission design team, but not much said there. Now, for the narrative team, they spent a lot of time working on the momentous task of the Nyx system. Plus, they have spent time writing several NPC scripts in support of upcoming gameplay mechanics and missions, with the team saying 2956, which is 2026, is going to be an exciting year in the Empire. And I do wonder what gameplay mechanics they're talking about here. Could it be crafting, hacking, data running? Maybe all of them? We will see. And then finally, we have the R&D team. This is quite a meaty update from them, with some great optimizations as the R&D team's total focus right now remains on optimizations and performance improvements, with them optimizing the texture streaming support added for volumetric cloud and ground fog, including support for streaming 3D volume textures. Also, read access to voxel trees can now be made concurrently, which says helps with CPU gas cloud reads for radiation volumes, atmospheric flight data, door hazard state updates, and more. So some great optimizations here to allow multiple threads to read the same voxel data simultaneously rather than only the one, which in turn helps to reduce the CPU load. Also, various optimizations were done to allow the inlining of C++ lambdas and to prevent allocations in situations where they must be captured as functions. And this, among other things, improves the runtime of the Intelligent Flight Control System thruster updates, or IFCS thruster updates, subsumption mission updates, and item resource generation and consumption. Also, threading-related OS call overheads were removed when updating vehicle parts and when checking for active impacts in damage maps. So essentially removing unnecessary OS thread overheads with vehicle and damage calculations now staying in the engine, which will result in smoother combat, fewer spikes, and better CPU scaling. So this is really directly relating to these huge fleet battles, ensuring that they run as smoothly as possible, which, with how the game is going, and more of us playing together at scale with large capital ships, this is going to help reduce all of those spikes and such. But I think the reason this is happening now is optimizing Squadron 42. As we know, there is going to be huge battles there with many ships, as we've seen in the recent gameplay reveal. So ensuring that during that phase, regardless of whether you're in a cinematic view or an actual in-game interaction view, there are no spikes, combat feels smooth, and it is more performance friendly. Now, overheads in evaluating AI tactical queries were fixed, while the refactor of Gas Cloud Lite updates to remove the need for temporary memory allocations and significantly optimize CPU processing cost was brought to the PU. So TLDR, this means firstly, AI thinking is cheaper, again causing less stutters in combat. Gas cloud lighting is much more efficient, meaning smoother performance around gas clouds, better CPU stability and overall less hitching, better frame pacing and future-proofing the PU, which is certainly a good thing. Now, in December, it says more code was optimized for both the PU and Squadron, among other things. Context capture for immediately executed lambdas in various systems was improved to avoid unnecessary allocations. So firstly, a lambda is a small, quick bit of code defined to do a job, and these are everywhere in the engine, from job system tasks, AI updates, physics callbacks, and so much more. So now lambdas that run immediately no longer allocate memory, so this means less CPU overheads, fewer cache misses, better frame time consistency, so another small but important step towards smoother gameplay, especially under heavy load. And then next up, it says that priority and deferred action queues were cleaned up and optimized to allow directly emplacing past lambdas and to avoid unnecessary temporary copies, and entity classes are now also stored more compactly in the registry and allow for more efficient lookups. Meaning, firstly, job queues now add tasks without extra copies, prioritizing what's most important first. Entities like players, NPCs, ships, components, doors, and so on are all stored more compactly as well, meaning they take less memory, cache better locally, and means that they can fit more entities into CPU cache lines, and where lookups are related, this streamlines any system requests, making them faster and less CPU expensive too. So all in all, due to Star Citizen having an extreme entity count, persistent entities, and simulating interiors, components, hazards, AI, this change will help with things like city performance, capital ship performance, FPS combat, and client-server stability. So we should see less hitching in busy areas like stations, cities, and when large ships are around, which is not only a good thing in itself, but also provides more headroom for improving other systems or future systems. Now, the R&D team also say AI local variables no longer cause excessive allocations and locking cost, which means AI updates are much cheaper, create less CPU contention, and have smoother performance in AI-heavy gameplay. So, for example, less stutters and more stable frame times, and more performance wherever AI are involved, especially where AI and physics are involved. And then finally, the team say the time slicing of monitored zone mission updates are now handled more efficiently, and finding the closest shadow region node is now executed more efficiently, and work is also underway to speed up projected decal rendering, saving interpolators. Which for the mission slicing, this work will create fewer hitches when missions update, which can often be a problem, as I'm sure most of you are aware, plus smoother performance during things like bunker missions, multi-objective missions, or just busy mission chains, which will be great for when Mission System version 2 comes along and you have multiple missions sort of chained together. That can lead you down a really merry path. For the faster lookup of the closet shadow region node, this is how the system determines shadows and lighting and how that should be calculated in any given area. And this work optimizes the search, meaning less CPU overheads in cities, stations, interiors, and other dense lighting environments. And then finally, for the speeding up of projected decal rendering, a projected decal is basically referring to things like bullet holes, scorch marks, dirt, wear and tear, paint damage, and other environmental markings. And this work is already saving on performance with better GPU efficiency, more stable visuals during combat, and less cost for damage decals and wear effects, which when you consider how damage is presented on each ship, we can see how much detail there is, and how many ships can be engaged in combat at any given time. Not to mention just general wear and tear and environmental impacts. Optimizations here will be a big win that will scale accordingly. So I suppose the big takeaway from all of the work that they are doing here is things are going to begin smoothing out, being less stuttery, less hitching, while also reducing how much both the CPU and GPU need to do, which is definitely the direction we need to be going. And again, the R&D team's sole focus right now for this year is to optimize the game and the engine and improve performance, not just client-side, but everywhere. So throughout this year, I suspect we will see many more optimizations come along, improving performance, reducing the VRAM as well, which is going to be very important, especially as Genesis, this new planet tech, is going to be quite heavy on and costly in terms of performance. And with them planning to increase player count as well with dynamic server meshing, we are going to need all the wins we can get. So there you go, a great monthly report, or 2 monthly reports combined into one there, covering all the work done in November and December. We will have, as I say, the new monthly report hopefully next week, or this week if this video goes out on Monday, highlighting all of January's work, which I will again break down for you. If you are buying anything from the IMPOUND, be sure to use my link, as not only does it save you some money, but it also helps to support my channel with a direct kickback. Huge thank you to all of you using it so far, much appreciated. If you do enjoy my videos, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. Also, I stream 3 days a week, being Monday, Wednesday and Friday between 2 and 6 PM GMT, and you are all more than welcome to come and hang out. Great place to ask your questions as well. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour. Tick that notification bell if you'd like to be notified when my videos go live. Again, a huge thank you to my patrons and channel members. You guys are amazing. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.